This is Eagle Owl, and today I will be talking about Nick Sirianni. Look like he's going to keep his job. Also, we're going to talk about the article that came out about Jalen Hurts being labeled as a jerk. And lastly, we're going to talk about Brian Johnson. It's looking like the Eagles are going to move on from him, but let's get straight into it. Well, let's get into the meat and potatoes, man. Jalen Hurts is being labeled as a jerk. uh don't like the word, but let's go this, I guess, a brief article of what this writer had to say about him. And full disclosure, this is the same guy that was writing bad stuff about Carson Wentz, and now he's writing, I guess, bad stuff about Jalen Hurts. But again, let's go over it. Shout out to I believe this was Philly Country Birds I got this from. And so it's a source within the Eagles organization said that Jalen Hurts has changed since signing his 255 million extension. They feel he should have been a better leader in 2023 and described as a good dude who doesn't realize when he's being a jerk at times. I guess I'm gonna say this, not saying I'm Jalen Hurts, but I feel like we got somewhat the same personality, laid back type dudes, don't really talk much. Um, does their job at a high level, keep it moving. Sometimes when what I was told, even to my face, like sometimes me being quiet, humble to myself, sometimes that can come off as jerkish. Like you don't care about nobody else. You're nonchalant. Do you care about what's going on? But then to some people, people look at me like he's a humble dude. He's a good guy. He do this and do that. And I feel like Jalen Hurts is going to do the same thing, especially getting paid and especially being a professional athlete. Like maybe he did the exact same thing he did in 2022 to 2023, but you heighten that being paid. You heighten that while you losing. Now they want you to have this Baker Mayfield type, energy, but that's not Jalen Hurts. That's just simply not him. They want him to beat somebody he's not. That is what it is. That's the guy we signed. He's not going to be that braggadocious guy at the podium. He's not going to be punching guys in the chest like, let's go, let's go. He's going to tap you on the shoulder like, we got this, this, and that. He's going to be a humble leader. It sounds like these dudes want an outspoken leader at times, but then a humble leader at times. Outspoken leader when you're losing and a humble leader when you're winning. It just simply don't work like that. It's either you're going to get the Jalen Hurts type personality, cool, calm, and collective, or you could get the Phillip Rivers, the Baker Mayfields, things like that personalities, always upbeat, always beating guys in the chest, like, let's go, guys, this and that. That's not Jalen Hurts. So the writer could have did that for shock value to say jerk, and that word to stick out, especially talking about a $255 million quarterback. I mean, I don't think he's a jerk. To me, this is the same guy with the quotes, always got something to say, positive. It's the same type of dude in 2022 and going into 2023. Derek Gunn had to say about the situation.
Jalen Hurts is not a bad guy. Jalen Hurts is just a quiet guy. When you listen to him at the podium, he doesn't give you a whole lot. He'll give you some quote that we chuckle at and hold on to for the rest of the week, but he's not a bad guy. He just has to learn to integrate himself more with his teammates. He's not standoffish. That's just his personality. I don't know enough about him to give a fair assessment of who he is or is not, just based on things that I'm hearing guys like him. It's this, and the article is right. This is not a Carson Wentz situation where Carson turned a lot of guys off. It's just that the organization wants him to be more of a team leader, not just a game leader. And being that team leader means embracing guys more in a locker room, embracing guys more away from the team, things of that nature. You know, let's face it, all guys don't hang out with each other after their job is said and done. Same way in our industry, we don't hang out with everybody we work with. You know, it's just more magnified because it's a professional athlete. I get that. They just want him to be a little bit more open arms, let's say that, in terms of how he conducts his business on the practice field, in the locker room, so on and so forth. But he is by no stretch of the imagination a bad guy. He's just, a real low key guy. Doesn't put a lot out.
As you see, good dude, and they just want him to basically change his personality. It's not going to happen. And then if he does change his personality, you know what people are going to say? That's not the same Jalen Hurts. He's not being himself. Gotta let the man be himself, man. And at the end of the day, to figure out what he was going through, or to find out what he was going through with Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni, had to freelance the offense to win 11 games. That's very impressive. Now, I don't like the epic collapse, no, but again, the bad play calling, we just did not look good offensively, defensively. And again, for Jalen Hurts to pull 11 wins out of that bad situation, it's pretty impressive. And to me, he's a good dude. It's a good dude, man. I think it is being over exaggerated because we lost the 6 of the last 7 games. That's it. That's all about that. Let's talk about Nick Sirianni, man. Look like Nick Sirianni will be keeping his job. Him and Howie Roseman are scheduled to speak to the media Wednesday, and that's expected. Nick Sirianni fired Sean Desai and Matt Patricia, which we know Matt Patricia is probably going to follow Bill Belichick to Atlanta. Brian Johnson, I'm seeing reports that he's fired. He's technically still on the roster, but the reason why we're holding on to him because of the head coaching opportunities. They're trying to see what he can get before being let go. Because even Derek Gunn put out there like is looking more and more likely like the Eagles are going to move on. But the teams he interviewed for look like they got head coaching jobs filled. Atlanta Falcons basically are going to hire Bill Belichick. Tennessee Titans just hired the offensive coordinator from the Bengals, and Carolina just hired somebody. I'm not sure who it was, but I know they hired somebody too. But there's no way Brian Johnson is staying on this roster, especially with the reports coming out that him and Jalen Hurts' relationship is soured as well. Just no way he's staying on this roster at all. But the only 2 offensive coordinators I seen was Frank Wright and the Jim Cooter guy. Those are only 2 offensive coordinators I seen. But let's talk about the defensive coordinators. I forgot to mention this in the intro. Ron Rivera actually interviewed with the Philadelphia Eagles. And I seen 50-50 on this. Actually, I probably seen more like 80-20 people not liking it. Like, why would you interview Ron Rivera? What has he done? This and that. All right, let's go over some positive of Ron Rivera. It's a Jim Johnson disciple. Every Eagles fan love Jim Johnson, especially if you do your homework as a younger Eagles fan. One of our best defensive coordinators we ever had. And then he's also older. So if he's succeeding in Philadelphia, more than likely, he's just going to stay in Philadelphia. I don't think he's going to try to pursue any head coaching jobs, especially if he's successful with the Philadelphia Eagles. So you don't really have to worry about replacing him as an older guy. Number 3, linebacker coach. What's the number one thing we've been complaining about? It's linebackers. We need somebody to get this linebacker room right. But I guess I'm going to mention this guy just a little bit. We also interview a guy named Mike Carwell, who specializes in the linebacker room. I don't really want him as a defensive coordinator. I know he was formerly with the Jaguars, but I don't want Mike Carwell here unless he's coming here to be a linebacker coach. But to take over the defense, no. But back to Ron Rivera, specialized in the linebacker room. Him and Jeffrey Lurie had a relationship or been cool with each other since the late 90s. So they are tight. We talking about a guy that, specialized in the linebacker room, who defense and his time being the head coach and defensive coordinator was really good besides last year. Last year was just terrible. And we know recency bias because that's why people came at Ron Rivera. That's the negative. Their defense was worse than ours, Washington. And Washington did the same thing we did. It just wasn't televised as much. Remember, they fired Jack Del Rio and Ron Rivera took over the play calling with the defense in Washington, but the defense got worse. But to give Ron Rivera the benefit of the doubt, Chase Young wasn't there, and they traded away Montez Sweat. But people will look at it like, well, Chase Young is playing his best ball in San Francisco. Montez Sweat playing his best ball in Chicago. So they probably looking at the play calling like, has Ron Rivera aged out? That's a good case. It's a good case. But I will say this, though. If Ron Rivera can just solely focus on the defense, I think he'll be fine. My top candidate, I still think it should be Denard Wilson. I still believe it should be Denard Wilson, man. Denard Wilson, I will say this. When you look at our secondary now, because we know he was the secondary coach with the corners and safeties, he had James Bradbury playing at an all-pro level. He had C.J. Gardner-Johnson looking like the best safety in the league. Marcus Epps playing at a high level. Darius Slay, Pro Bowler. Like, I'm just going by what he was coaching. Phenomenal level. He had those guys playing at a phenomenal level. And he was a part of a team that had a top 5 defense. You're like, you know what, Eagles? Y'all don't believe in me being a defensive coordinator. I'm going to go somewhere else. And he's the defensive back coach with the Ravens. And look how Kyle Hamilton's playing. Look how Kyle Hamilton's playing. Look how Humphreys and those dudes are playing there. They are playing at a high level for our state secondary. He did it again, went to another team, and guess where they playing at? A top 5, top 2 level defense. I want Denard Wilson. Denard Wilson hopefully put his feelings to the side. Nick Sirianni put his feelings to the side. Like, look, we made a mistake. We should have made you defensive coordinator, even though the players were calling for you. And your resume speaks volumes. To me, he's our best candidate. And I know you can't really interview him now because he's still doing what he got to do in Baltimore. Still got to handle his food. But Denard Wilson got to come back, man, as a defensive coordinator. Think about it, man. He had James Bradbury playing at an all-pro level. That's insane to me. That's crazy. We're talking about a guy that's not even motivated to tackle anymore, just off a coaching change. Just off a coaching change. A dude is not willing to tackle. Think that's happened under Denard Wilson? No, absolutely not. So we need a way to bring him back, man. We definitely need a way to bring him back. But hey, man, what do you think and how do you feel about the news today? Jalen Hurts being labeled as a jerk. Don't like it at all. The Ron Rivera. I mean, it's cool, but I want Denard Wilson. That's what I want. Brian Johnson, it's up out of here. Hey, it happens, man. It happens. But it's Eagle Owl, man. I'm up.